Have you ever wondered why your brain just doesn't work the way it used to? Maybe you used to feel sharp, creative, focused. You could juggle your work, your family, your to-do list without skipping a beat, but now you catch yourself searching for words, you're rereading the same email, or you're struggling to stay present in a conversation. It's not that you're lazy, and it's not just stress. If you feel like you're pushing yourself through a mental fog most days, your body is trying to tell you something, and today I want to help you understand what that something might be. Hi, my name is Lisa Ann de Garcia, and I help people optimize their brain health so they can feel calm, focused, and productive without living on caffeine or bouncing between burnout and recovery. And if that sounds like something you want more of in your life, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of the tools and education that I will be sharing each week. So in this episode, we are diving into some of the real reasons why you're mentally drained. I'm going to walk you through some of the deeper, more biological causes that could be making your brain foggy, slow, and unmotivated, and I'll give you some practical steps for each one. So first of all, mental fatigue isn't the same as being sleepy. It's a kind of cognitive burnout. It shows up when your brain's resources are being depleted faster than they're being restored, and it can feel like forgetfulness, slower thinking, low motivation, trouble concentrating, irritability, or just that off feeling like you're not fully present in your own mind. All right, so number one is neuroinflammation. Your brain has an immune system as well as the rest of your body. And when it's exposed to things like processed foods, environmental toxins, chronic stress, or even hidden infections, it can trigger a low-grade inflammatory response, which can become chronic. This doesn't feel like a headache or a fever. It feels more like mental slowness, poor memory, trouble concentrating, mood swings. So the question then is, how do you address it? Food and chemicals in the food can be very inflammatory. So this is just one of the triggers, but it's a huge one because it's one you have a lot of control over. So food and the chemicals that are in the food. One place to start would be your fats. There are a lot of inflammatory seed oils that are used in cooking foods, and what happens is a seed oil in itself, if it was cold pressed and unrefined, they have omega-6s, which your body needs. However, these seed oils, first of all, are very refined in their process, and when they're heated, they change their chemical structure, and then they become very inflammatory. And the amount of seed oils that we are exposed to is dramatic. And there is a proportion of omega-6 to omega-3 that we need, but because of the amount of seed oils that we're getting, the proportion is like way off the charts. So if we swap those out when we're cooking, let's say we're not eating out so much, because if you eat out, all that fried food and stuff is going to be in seed oils. Unless there's a couple restaurants popping up here and there. I think like Dave Asprey has one in California that uses no seed oils. And I think it's going to eventually be a trend, but for right now, eating out is minimal as possible. But swapping out those seed oils in your house, like you shouldn't even have them. You shouldn't even be cooking with them. So canola, soybean, corn oil, like all those yellow oils, even grapeseed oil. And you swap them out for the healthier fats like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, grass-fed butter, and ghee. And so butter is very healthy. Tallow, the animal fats, these healthier fats, they're going to rebuild the structure of your brain cells, reduce oxidative stress, and improve neuronal communication. Your cell the cell wall is made out of fat. Your brain is made out of fat. So we want to provide healthy fats for that. Okay, so number two is mitochondrial dysfunction. Your brain uses more energy than any other organ in your body, and that energy comes from these tiny little structures inside your cells. They look like little kidney beans when we draw them, and they're called mitochondria. And if your mitochondria are damaged by oxidative stress or toxins or nutrient deficiencies, your brain doesn't get enough fuel, even if you have technically eaten enough. So one of the things that you can do is to start nourishing the mitochondria, and one of the things to nourish them, besides we can nourish everything again by healthy fats, but you can start your morning with filtered water. Drink warm lemon water. So I heat my water. I don't want to boil it, but I heat it so it's like a tea, and I squeeze lemon in it and a pinch of mineral sea salt. And this is going to help hydrate your cells in the morning, support your electrolyte balance, give your mitochondria that gentle nudge in the right direction. You can also include foods rich in antioxidants and mitochondrial cofactors like dark leafy greens, brightly colored vegetables, pastured eggs, and clean protein. Number 3 is blood sugar dysregulation. And this is a big one, and this is probably the initial domino for many things that are happening in our body. But essentially, your blood runs on glucose, and it needs that glucose to be steady, not spiking and crashing. So if you eat a high-carb breakfast, like the traditional American breakfast, cereal, toast, fruit juice, you're going to get quick energy boost followed by a crash. And during that crash, your brain is going to struggle. You might be foggy, shaky, irritable, like you can't finish a thought. And I have a story about this. My son, my oldest son, when he was in 3rd grade, he was in this is when it just became very evident to me. He was in like I don't want to call it a decathlon, but like it was for all the 3rd graders in the district, and they would have a team of 5, and it was like a little Jeopardy that they would play, and it was on science. And he was in the little competition, and I noticed in the morning, so I was watching all the rounds, and in the morning, every single round, he single-handedly for his entire team answered every single question. And then, I don't know if it was after lunch, because that could be a different issue, if it was after lunch or if it was just in the afternoon. So either way, it was probably after lunch. He barely could answer anything, and then the other team, they were winning because he was answering everything. And then in the afternoon, their team just was losing because the other kids weren't really able to answer very much, and he had petered out. And that just really stuck with me, and I spent many years just really pondering that and thinking about what is that. But it's basically he used up like all his glucose really fast, and he didn't have a sustained source of energy, right? So if we're using fat, if we're burning fat, like people who go on a keto diet and they're burning fat, that's more of a long sustaining energy versus if you're just relying only on glucose. So what can you do about it? You want to build your meals around protein and fat and fiber. And then, because these are going to slow down how quickly sugar enters the bloodstream, especially if you're like fiber, the sugar can tend to bind to fiber, and then it can prevent some of that sugar from going into the bloodstream. And it gives your brain a steady, reliable fuel source. So instead of eating a banana, which many people eat for breakfast, you might want to accompany that with a boiled egg or a spoonful of almond butter or peanut butter or something on the side. Don't skip meals. If this is your issue, the whole glucose thing, don't skip meals, especially in the morning. So in the morning, you want to start your foot off with protein. You want to break your fast. So breakfast is called breakfast because you're breaking the fast that you've had overnight. Like you had dinner, and then after dinner, hopefully you didn't eat anything, and hopefully all night you didn't eat anything, so you've had a fast for a minimum of 12 hours is good for most people, but you want to break that fast with protein. And so in the morning, what we do at our house is in the morning, we are eating vegetables and egg, maybe some meat, a soup. We eat what sort of looks like dinner-y type things for breakfast, and we eat, if we're going to indulge and eat a little breakfasty thing or have a sweet roll or something that you might see for breakfast here in the U.S., we will eat that in the evening when it's like kind of time to go to bed, so we don't have that petering out effect and our body has a chance to digest it. But so in the morning, you want to make sure that you have fat and protein and fiber in the morning. So if you are going to have orange juice, because an orange is much healthier than an orange juice because the orange has the fiber in it, and the orange juice is just like extracted sugar from the orange. Be careful when you're drinking orange juice. Make sure that you're having it with protein or with the fat and fiber. And actually taking a 10-minute walk after lunch or dinner helps regulate blood sugar as well and can improve post-meal energy and focus. Number 4 is the gut-brain axis. Your brain and your gut are in constant communication, right? So the brain is telling the gut what to do, and the gut is signaling to the brain. And actually, this is because the vagus nerve, it's a cranial nerve, and it goes all the way down through your torso into all your internal organs. And so there is that constant communication between the two. And so if your gut is inflamed, If it's leaky or if it's imbalanced, then your brain is getting distress signals, and that can impact memory, mood, and cognitive function. So when I work with clients who struggle with anxiety, irritability, or fogginess, we often find gut imbalances that were never addressed. So what can you do? You can start with your eating habits. Okay, you can slow down. This is the hardest part for me. Out of everything that I ever do, this is the hardest part for me. Slowing down when I eat. I was a teacher forever, and so it's just like we're so used to shoving food in our mouth as we're like doing 100 other things during recess or lunch because it's not long enough. So slow down, chew your food thoroughly, put your fork down in between bites. We want to do things that signal the digestive enzymes and the bile and all the pancreatic stuff. We want to signal the body that we are about to eat. Also, if we chew our food more, which I'm going to admit, this is like the hardest thing for me to do, but it's so important. If you chew your food, you're activating the enzymes in your saliva, which signal the other organs that, okay, food is coming. So have the digestive enzymes ready, get that hydrochloric acid ready so you're able to digest everything. Because when you don't digest your food, then you're not able to absorb the nutrients. So it could just be going in and out without being fully broken down and fully absorbed. You can also begin by adding prebiotics like onions, leeks, garlics, asparagus. Those things will feed the beneficial bacteria that are in the gut and support the gut-brain connection. And you can also supplement with things like glycine to help repair leaky gut. There's many things, marshmallow, there's a lot of things, a lot of different herbs and supplements that you can buy that can help repair leaky gut. Okay, number 5. This one often gets overlooked, and that is of latent infections. So like chronic infections like Epstein-Barr. Epstein-Barr is very connected to mental fatigue and being just your whole body being like super fatigued. But it's not just Epstein-Barr, but just different viruses and different infections. Most people are exposed to Epstein-Barr, for example, at some point in their life without even realizing it. But most of the time, viruses usually, when healthy people, are dormant. So we actually probably have most viruses in our body, but they're probably usually dormant. And then when we have stress, those viruses get reactivated. Shingles, for example, or whatever, these viruses get reactivated. But Epstein-Barr is very much connected with your brain stuff and even has a high connection to multiple sclerosis. So under stress, these viruses can reactivate, and they silently are taxing your immune system, leading to chronic fatigue, brain fog, and a general sense of heaviness or burnout. And so if this resonates with you, this is what you might be able to do to start. So you can support your immune system gently and consistently. Prioritize deep sleep. Reduce your sugar intake. If you ever have anything chronic, I would say cut out all sugar, period. But definitely greatly reduce your sugar intake. Sugar fuels viral activity. Sugar fuels cancer. Sugar fuels a lot of stuff, like candida, probably even parasites. And consider nutrient support with zinc, selenium, vitamin C. And if the symptoms persist, you may want to work with a practitioner. Your practitioner can test for viruses, or they can use different protocols. For example, I can use a protocol. There's some really good homeopathic protocols that help mitigate the viral symptoms. So there's a lot of different protocols. So work with a practitioner if you're having a hard time wrapping your head around that. And number 6 is the toxin load and your detox pathways. So we talked a little bit, maybe not so much about detox pathways or toxins, but your brain has its own waste clearing system called the lymphatic system. So your general body has a lymphatic system, and that's help clearing out toxins. It's a system to help clear out toxins, but in your head specifically, it's called the lymphatic system. And it kicks into high gear when you are sleeping. So when you're sleeping, the reason we need to be in deep sleep, that's the time our brain starts to shrink, and it is squeezing and purging out toxins, and it's going down through our neck. So we want to make sure if you always have swollen lymph nodes, it's like you're trapping all those toxins, but then they're not going anywhere and they're just staying stuck. And if the lymphatic system isn't pumping, then those toxins are stagnant. And I know, like with some doctors with their work with autistic kids, they do a lot of like some neck massages. There's some ways where you're just massaging all these lymph nodes and stuff, and you can even use like a MSM cream or whatever, or even coriander oil, not like essential oil, but like an oil, you can rub it on and do some massage. Try to help clear out that lymphatic system. if your liver and your lymph and your kidneys aren't draining well, or if your body is consistently exposed to toxins, things are going to build up. And I'm not even sure if I just said this, but that buildup will impair your cognitive function, and it can leave you feeling mentally foggy, heavy, or detached. So what can you do? You can do a daily drainage hygiene. So like dry brushing. You can Google that or look at YouTube videos on how to do dry brushing, but dry brushing helps stimulate that lymphatic flow. Movement, for sure, that's the whole point. That's why kids don't really have much of a problem, because they're running all the time, but going on the trampoline, running, doing some kind of movement, because the lymph system is the only system in the body that doesn't have a pump. So we need to manually pump it. You need to stay hydrated with mineral-rich water. So you don't want it to get all thick and like stagnant. You want to flush it. And you don't need to start with aggressive detox protocols, right? Just start gentle. Do things to get your lymph moving, drink more water, think about sweating, hydrating, and then reduce the incoming toxins when you can. Look at the labels of the things you eat. Make sure that there's no chemicals on them, or at least to the best of your ability, because there's a lot of things that are still in our food that we don't know about because they don't disclose it. But just there's some foods that are obvious and some foods that we think are clean. Maybe they're not, but we just do the best we can. And also switching out things like, you don't need scented candles. You don't need all those cleaning supplies. Vinegar and baking soda go a long way. Replace those things in your environment with natural things, because those are toxins that you are breathing in, or that maybe you are getting through your skin. Even if you're not eating them, you still get toxins in your bodies in other ways. Personal care items, for example, I love to make a body butter what do I use? I use cacao chips, or cocoa butter, cocoa butter, and coconut oil, and just all the different kind of like avocado oil and almond oil, whatever oils I have around the house, and I make it into a butter so that you offset because cocoa butter is like a rock, and you offset that by the oils, and when you boil it together, then when it solidifies, it's more like of a cream, and you smell like a cookie when you're done. So that's like the extra bonus, because it's so yummy, it smells like chocolate. But anyway, so that's my favorite thing to do. Number 7 is the nervous system dysregulation is often tied to adrenal stress. And so when you're constantly in fight or flight mode, that sympathetic nervous system is just like on the go-go. Your body diverts energy away from its non-essential functions, like your memory, your executive function, your emotional regulation. So even if you're not consciously stressed, your nervous system might be stuck in survival mode. And that's the cell danger response. There's certain things like when your body had at one time, maybe because it was exposed to toxins and it got stuck in this pattern of being in fight or flight, and now that's just the way your whole body operates. So we need to undo that. And so the one thing you can do is make sure that you give your brain a few minutes of safety every day. You want your body and your brain, and especially your brain, you want your brain to believe that it is safe, that it is no longer in danger. So you might want to do 5 minutes of breath work, and there's all kinds of breath work. I think there's one way where you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 4, you breathe out for 4. You just count to yourself in your head. Some people like to breathe in for 4, hold for 6, and breathe out for 8. That's what I do. Or when I exhale, I just try to exhale as long as I can. You can also breathe really quick and then breathe out slowly. And that is also very effective. So there's a lot of different ways to do breath work. It's not really a wrong way. You can just play around with it. The point is that you take some time every day. You do some breath work. You can lie outside in the sun with your eyes closed. So it's about, again, teaching your body that it's safe, and it's like resetting the internal thermostat, if you will, and start restoring your cognitive bandwidth. So those were all the different underlying factors. I don't want to say they were all the underlying factors, but there were as many that I wanted to cover today for mental fatigue. So mental fatigue is a result of systems in your body that are struggling to keep up. And once you start identifying which systems are asking for help, then things are going to start to shift. So remember, your brain is not broken. You're not just tired, you're operating under load, and the good news is that load can be lifted. So I want you to go through some of the different suggestions that I suggested, and those are really good, easy places to start. In the upcoming episodes, I actually want to go deeper into some of those things I talked about. I scratched the surface, like on the mitochondria and the gut-brain barrier, or the gut-brain axis, nervous system, or whatever. And I want to take an entire episode and go deep into just one of those issues. But for today, I think that gives you a really good overall picture of some of the things that could be going wrong that are causing brain fog, and give you a place to start. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And we're going to be diving deeper into gut health, nutrient support, detox tools, and more in the upcoming videos. And if you're ready to find out what you need to do to help your brain function better, check the link in the description and book a free call with me. Remember, your brain is resilient, but don't worry, it's not too late. The path to feeling better starts with understanding what is really going on.